Hello, my name is Ann Kent. I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist and the owner of Peas and Happiness. I have a little show and tell today with some of my springtime greens from my Miller Farm CSA box and even one of my lettuces from our garden outside. These greens are in season right now, and after a long winter of root vegetables and onions and potatoes and carrots, I love the freshness of salad. So I wanted to review some of the differences between some of the different types of greens, because not only do they have a little bit different nutritional value, but they also have a different texture and different flavor. So choosing the right type of green for your salad can definitely enhance the flavor and make it taste the best. So I don't have all of the different types of lettuce here because it is still early in the season. So the first one to review is iceberg lettuce, because this is one of the most common lettuces that we find, especially if you go out to eat and order a salad. A lot of times you'll find iceberg lettuce in the salad. Unfortunately, iceberg, as you may have heard, is not the most nutritious of the lettuces, but it does provide a really great base for a salad, or it also works really well as a wrap. Iceberg has probably the most neutral flavor, the most bland flavor of all of the lettuces. So if the bitterness of some of the darker green leafy vegetables bothers you, then iceberg can be a good alternative. It also is a little bit lower in vitamin K, so if you do happen to be taking a blood thinner, specifically warfarin, which is sensitive to your vitamin K levels, that's an easy way to include some greens without worrying about the vitamin K content of your veggies. Up a level from iceberg lettuce is romaine, which this is half of a piece of a romaine lettuce, I think, which I found in my CSA box. It's a little early for romaine as well, because this is another head of lettuce that is really large and it takes a long time to grow. But romaine lettuce and similar to this butter lettuce or Bibb lettuce, these type of lettuces are also pretty mild. They have a nice crunch to them and they work really well as a wrap if you are wanting to do something like an Asian wrap and stuff this full of different ingredients, or if you're looking for an alternative for a bun on your hamburger. Those types of lettuces work really well just because of the large piece of lettuce that you get off of that. So they're both high in vitamins A and K, and butter lettuce actually also is high in phosphorus. So we're moving up a little bit in terms of nutrition as we get to a little bit darker colored green leafy vegetables. So moving on from that, now I've got some more to show you. So the next would be red leaf lettuce. So this is what actually came from my garden, and you can see it's named because literally you can see the red color in the leaves. And that also tells us something about its nutrition, because it is much, much higher in vitamin A than the previous veggies. And that's because vitamin A is a carotenoid. The precursor to vitamin A is the carotenoid beta carotene, which shows up as a red color. So this is going to be just a little bit more bitter. It's also a little bit more tender. You can see that the leaves are a little bit softer, so they're not as crispy, and also they're smaller. So this is not going to work as well for a wrap. This type of lettuce works best for adding to a salad, or you could use it as a topping on your burger, or topping on whatever else you might like. So moving on, the next kind of topping leafy green that I would recommend is arugula. I also don't have this in my basket. Arugula is a little funny shaped vegetable. If you've ever ordered a pizza at a fancy restaurant or tacos, sometimes you'll notice that it comes with this funny looking lettuce, and that is probably arugula. So arugula has sort of a peppery, spicy flavor, which is really great to enhance some of the flavors of some of those more bland dishes. So if you have like a flatbread pizza with some cheese on it and you want to really give it a pop of flavor, that's why they'll add arugula to it, because it has a very specific flavor. I would not, however, recommend to use arugula as the base for your entire lettuce salad, because it's going to be a pretty strong flavor. It's great to add in amongst the other lettuces. So if you're doing a blend of different kinds of springtime greens, arugula is great to throw in, but it's maybe not the best to use as the primary green leafy vegetable in your salad, because the flavor can be a little bit overwhelming, especially if you're not used to it. Moving on to our even more dark leafy lean vegetables, we've got the two highest in nutrition and maybe my personal favorites, I have kale and spinach. So let's talk about kale briefly, just because it is such a versatile vegetable. So I have an example of kind of a fully grown kale leaf, and then one that I would kind of term more of a baby kale. So kale is really versatile, and you can either eat it raw in a salad, or you can cook it in a wide variety of ways. Now, baby kale is going to be the best for raw salad because it's going to be the most tender. And if you're trying to pick this out in the grocery store or at the farmer's market, you can literally notice that the leaves are going to be thinner, smaller, and a little bit more delicate. So those are going to lend themselves better to a raw salad because they're not going to be quite as chewy. If you are making a salad or planning to eat your kale raw, before you eat it, you'll want to massage the leaves, and that actually helps to break down some of the fibers. You can see all the awesome fiber in that kale, which is really, really nutritious, but is harder to chew, takes a while to chew through. So as you massage kale, you literally just take your fingers and just rub those leaves, and it helps break apart the little fibers. If you have a big salad of kale, just massage with your whole hands, and that'll break up some of those fibers and make that taste really good. Now, of course, kale is super high in lots of different vitamins. It is high in vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin K. It also has a ton of folate, potassium, and manganese. Also, surprisingly, this is a green leafy vegetable that is pretty high in iron. So if you are a vegetarian or if you don't eat a lot of meat, these dark green leafy vegetables are a really good source of some of that iron that you might otherwise be missing out on in a vegetarian eating plan. So green leafy vegetables are awesome. The larger pieces of kale, you may have heard me say this before, but the stem here is actually inedible. So before you prepare this, you'll want to hold this by the stem and take your forefinger and your thumb, pinch that, and simply tear off the leaves. When it breaks here, you can see that that's going to be easy enough to eat now, so that's not a problem. So you don't have to remove all of the stem. Once it gets small enough, it's going to be fine to eat. Now, usually I like to use these bigger leaves to cook. You can make kale chips out of them by baking in the oven. You could throw this into a soup. One of our favorite ways is with eggs in the morning. We like to cook bacon and then use the bacon grease to cook little pieces of kale. It makes it taste really delicious, of course, and that's just a fun way to get a vegetable in for breakfast. Okay, last but not least is spinach. I have a couple of different spinach leaves here, and this is another area where size matters. Size determines the taste and the texture of this type of vegetable. So spinach, just like kale, is very high in some of the similar nutrients: A, C, K, folate, calcium. It's a really powerhouse of a vegetable. But you can see that this spinach leaf is giant and this little spinach leaf is smaller. So this spinach leaf is what they would call a baby spinach leaf, and literally it's just picked at a younger age. And so just like the kale, it's going to be more tender, a little bit less bitter, and best for eating raw. These, if you're going to make a salad, raw spinach is or the baby spinach is definitely going to be what you want to use. These bigger leaves are going to be a little bit more tough. They're going to work better if you cook them. So this would be a leaf that I would recommend to maybe saute. This would be another great option to use in place of kale. The difference when you cook these down is that kale tends to hold up a little bit more. It tends to be a little bit more crispy. There's a lot more fiber actually in kale. So spinach tends to shrink down a little bit more and become just a little bit more soft. So I would recommend choosing that based on the texture that you're looking for, because the nutrition is pretty similar between those. Spinach is another really good vegetable that, just like arugula, you can add to a mix of other vegetables. So if you're not looking for a really strong spinach flavor, but you'd like to add some of that nutrition, tossing in some of your spinach with maybe a romaine blend or some of that red leaf lettuce or green leaf lettuce, that would work really well for a lovely salad. So if you have any questions, please feel free to drop a comment. I would be happy to get back with you about that. And I'll drop a link with a blog post including some of this nutrition information. So the next time you're trying to pick out the best lettuce green for your salad, you can choose based on the texture, based on the flavor, and based on the nutrition that you are looking for. So thank you for joining me, and I look forward to catching you next week. Take care, everybody.